So Andrew, we're at the corner of Island Park and Wellington in the green space that's next to the Mizrahi space. First off, can you talk to me a bit about the history of Westboro, where it comes from, and particularly some of its architecture?
Sure. Well, Westboro itself was originally called Skeed's Mills, and that's after a lumber mill that was started by James Skeed, whose house is actually just over there,
okay.
In 1880. And that mill was kind of the genesis of the Westboro area, and a lot of the workers and lumbermen kind of habitated around the area. And then at the turn of the century, after the lumber trade kind of died down, this area became a suburb, if you will, of downtown Ottawa. So in the early 1900s, 1920s, when the automobile came around and allowed people to come out into the outskirts of town, that this was back then, you'll see a lot of the architecture of that time.
Now, I've been out this afternoon just filming some of the interesting buildings, and you'd pointed me to a couple in particular. Can you talk to me about buildings like, you know, the Elmdale Tavern, the Champlain gas station, which is in the background? What are some of the interesting buildings that are in the neighborhood?
Well, there's a few of them that really kind of give an example of the era and are perfect examples of our type of neighborhood that was built in the 20s. A big example, I think, is the Esso gas station, built in the 30s with an Art Deco kind of theme. And that theme is also seen at the old Elmdale Theatre on Wellington. It's that very unique kind of Art Deco-ish look. You have the Parkdale Fire Station, which was built in the 20s. That has a unique architectural style. And then you have all the kind of auxiliary necessities. They're really not like grand buildings, but they give an example of life at that time, such as the Carlton Tavern. You've got a number of old theaters that are no longer here, but down in Westboro especially, the old Fuller designed church. That church was actually designed by the same architect who designed the Parliament buildings.
Okay. And then some of the other buildings I filmed, the Capitol Wirecloth building is interesting, particularly the Parkdale Fire Center, or the fire station on Parkdale.
Yeah, that fire station was a unique building. It is an example of form follows function. That large tower was actually used to dry the old canvas hoses, so they would hang them from there, and that's why there's a tower.
Right.
So there's a lot of unique architectural styles in the neighborhood that I think we need to look at.
It was interesting to take a look at the Parkdale Lofts, which are just past the Carlton Tavern, and see that reference to the Parkdale fire station in their building. So one of the things obviously we're talking about is landmark architecture. What, to your mind, is landmark architecture? What does that mean?
Well, personally for myself, landmark should mean more than being a mark on the land. It should be a distinct feature that people recognize in a positive manner, and it is timeless. These landmarks are things that people will refer to in conversation, like giving directions. Yeah, it's one block past that old 30s looking gas station, or whatever. And people will be passing this for decades, and it should be something that's timeless and appreciated by people, and it's not scorned.
One of the things that you and I were chatting about previously was the fact that it should also be in context.
Absolutely. There are a number of landmarks that are revolutionary and could maybe be a landmark in their own way, but if you want to make it a pleasing aesthetic for the neighborhood, it should maybe take in some of the elements of the neighborhood in some fashion.
Now, we've talked about some of those potential cues. I know that people, they know that I think the river is a potential cue, as well as, you know, things like trees, for example. I mean, there's a bunch of different things that we could
there's
take our cues from.
Natural elements to the area. The river is a big part of the community. That's where all the logs came, and that's why this is here today, because of the river.
Yeah. Now, you've had a chance to take a look at the architecture that has been proposed for the redesigned 12-story building, and you know, no secret, I don't think that you are convinced that it is in context for this neighborhood.
No, I I understand the architect is based in Toronto, and I don't know if that Toronto architect had visited the neighborhood to get kind of a feel for the architectural style and the history of our neighborhood, like the website says. But I find that the current design is more in tune to something down in the parliamentary district rather than in our quaint kind of 1920s, 1930s style.
Do you think it's possible to build something that is landmark at 12 stories that is contextual for this neighborhood?
Absolutely. You can look at, I don't think the problem is the height, it's the style of the design. Like, look at the Empire State Building. That is a supreme landmark, and that's hundreds of stories high. So you can design something that fits in the neighborhood, is pleasing, and it meets all the requirements. It just takes more of a creative process, I think, and some due diligence on behalf of the developer.
Fantastic. Andrew, anything you want to add?
I think that this is a great neighborhood for development. Obviously, it would be a lot better to have something here than what's currently here. And I think with the right planning and creative process, we can have something cool we'll all like.
Fantastic. Andrew, thank you so much.
You're welcome.